We are not very rational and methodical problem solvers by default. We tend to jump directly to conclusions, we tend to rely on our intuition, and we tend to get so accustomed to the status quo that we no longer even notice it. We very, very rarely question why we think what we think, or why the things are as they are right now. Because of it, we tend to focus on fixing only the visible symptoms, very rarely the true underlying causes of a problem. And that's what the 5 whys root cause analysis is really all about. The goal of 5 whys is to discover a true, deep, underlying root of a problem by simply asking very basic question, why? Consecutively, several times. And it's really surprising how powerful such a simple why question can be. We found this out when we were doing 5 whys for the first time at the Sky. And we were discussing a problem with our build pipeline. It was mostly automated at this time, but still a couple of steps were manual. And of course, we focused on the two sides of a problem. On the one hand, how to make automated steps run faster. On the other hand, how to make manual steps easier for people. But then I asked people in the room, why do we have manual steps at all? Of course, the answer was quite obvious. We have manual steps in the process because it always worked like this. It has to be like this. But why? Why can't we automate everything? Because it's hard. It's not possible. But why? What makes it impossible? And then there is a total silence in the room. For like 10 seconds, people are looking like this guy here on the picture. By the way, this is not an actual photo from the meeting, but a very close approximation. And finally, after 10 seconds, one guy stands up and says, you know, those steps were impossible to automate half a year ago, but with all the fixes and improvements we did to our build pipeline, I believe I can automate them in about 2 days. And this is how a simple why question, how powerful can it be? But does it work by default? Not really. Our experience doing this kind of analysis at Sky shows that there are 3 very basic, simple rules that are necessary to make such analysis work. First rule, no shortcuts. We should consider only the most direct, closest cause of a problem. We should work in very small steps. Second rule, no assumptions, no guessing, no blame. And the third rule, we should dig really, really deep. Usually we stop not on the true cause of the problem, but earlier. We should go really deep to discover the real cause of a problem. How it can work in practice? Let's see it on a simple example. The typical way of thinking can be like this. Assume that we have failed a sprint. Why we have failed a sprint? Because we use API created by another team, and this API has unclear error messages. We had hard time debugging it, so we didn't manage to complete this user story on time. Why those error messages are unclear? It's obvious, because the API team did a poor job. They didn't wrote correct, clear error messages. But let's see how it breaks all the 3 rules and how can we improve it. First of all, this is a shortcut. What's the real reason we have failed a sprint? Not because of error messages. We have failed a sprint because we didn't finish user story on time. It took us more time than expected, and because we have started late in the sprint. As you can see, it opens us many more options. Before, we could only ask the other team to improve their error messages. Right now, we can also, for example, start more risky user stories earlier in the sprint. The second problem, this is not a fact. This is assumption. It's not even assumption. It's a shameless blame. What's the true reason that we don't understand the error messages, not because of poor job of another team, but what's the observable reason? The observable reason is that we don't understand the error messages because they are using domain jargon and we don't understand this jargon. Now it's much better because before we could only go to other team and ask them, guys, please don't do a poor job anymore. Not very constructive and you won't be very popular with this team. Now we can get to the team and say, okay, guys, please don't use domain jargon in the messages. It's much more constructive right now. But there is still one more problem. It's still a bit too shallow. Why this team uses domain jargon? It turns out that they use domain jargon because they communicate with their stakeholders this way. So it shows how wrong we were in our initial assumption. They don't use domain jargon because they are doing poor job. They use domain jargon because they are doing very good job. They are using domain-driven design. They do it on purpose. But unfortunately, this is a dead end because they do it on purpose because it's good. We cannot do much with it. So let's explore another branch. Why we don't know the domain jargon? For example, because there is no reference, there is no dictionary. This is a problem we can tackle. We can create such dictionary. We can learn the domain jargon. So as you can see, asking why in a more methodical way helps us discover true causes that can be fixed. But does it really work so nicely in real life? Unfortunately, in real life, there are two seemingly obvious but still big problems. First problem, the tree is not such a nice small like on this example. This is a real tree from our real analysis at SKY, and as you can see, I was too lazy to count it before the presentation, but it's like 8 or 9 or even 10 wise, not 5 wise. And it takes a lot of time. You can be sure that you won't complete something like this in a single meeting. So there will be many sessions. And it's not so neat. It's quite a messy process to discover such tree. And the second problem, we will be discussing problems that we are interested in, we are passionate about. So there will be not only off-topic discussions, but people will feel excited, they may feel attacked, they may get defensive. It can easily derail the analysis. So what can you, people who will be organizing such analysis, what can you do to mitigate this? First of all, very, very important thing is preparation, especially tooling. Because the tree is big, because the process is chaotic, it's messy, you need a tool that allows to switch branches, to add nodes above the current branch, that allows a lot of flexibility. Also, you need persistence, because, as I said, it will take several sessions. And the tree gets really huge, so you either need something very big, like some enormous board, or some tool that allows zooming in and out of particular branches. When we first tried this analysis at the Sky, we tried drawing this on a whiteboard, and it was a total disaster. Right now, we are using electronic mind mapping tool, and it works quite nicely for us. Second thing, you need to moderate the meeting well. Of course, you need to avoid off-topic discussions and so on, but the most important thing is be very, very aware of assumptions and blame. If you don't work in small enough steps, you can always fix it later, add more steps. But when people start feeling attacked, when people get into defensive mode, they won't be honest, they want a good analysis, and the meeting will break. The next thing is not only moderation, it's also a facilitation. We had such situation at the Sky. We were discussing our automated tests, and they weren't running in parallel. So I asked why we can run them in parallel, because our framework doesn't allow it. Why the framework doesn't allow it? Because it's third party, it's created such a way we can't do anything about it. So you can see it's a dead end. But then I started to ask not only why, but other questions. Are there different frameworks? What can we do to overcome this? So it's not always why, it's sometimes questions like why not? What else? What steps can we take to fix this? So you should ask not only as a moderator, but also as a facilitator, as a devil's advocate, who will question the assumptions of the people doing the analysis and help them overcome this kind of obstacles. The last thing, you should act also as a navigator. Because the analysis will take a lot of time and several meetings, you surely won't complete the whole tree during one session, one meeting. There are questions. Should we discover its breadth first or depth first? Which branches should we pursue? In what order? And it's not always obvious. Also, you need to keep a momentum because there will be several sessions. It's very demotivating for people if nothing happens between the sessions. It's very demotivating if it requires, I don't know, 5 or 6 meetings to come to conclusions, to find results without any actions. Also, your management probably expects some results from you because such analysis takes a lot of time of a lot of people. So you as a moderator should navigate this meeting in such a way that you can find quick wins, that you can guide people to explore that branches that provides quick results. You are detached from the topic at hand. People involved in the analysis, engaged in it, it's very difficult for them to have such a high-level view to guide such kind of navigation. You as a moderator can guide them to provide a quick action points, a quick effects. And I think it's more or less enough to make you started with such analysis. It worked pretty well for us at the Sky. Of course, I'm aware I've only scratched the surface. There are much more low-level details about it. So if you are interested in the topic, catch me during the break or, I don't know, contact me on Twitter, for example. And I hope you will try this method because it worked really well for us at the Sky. Thank you very much.